It's early in the season, but this was a big, big win for the San Francisco Giants, salvaging a win in this series in Boston here. And yeah, on this long 10-game road trip, you don't want to get swept to start it off. So happy flight to Philadelphia. Kyle Harrison, the 22-year-old, leading the way to a pitching and defense win.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. My name is Ben Kaspick, and on the show we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday, talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that's data-driven and rational, but also simple, passionate, and accessible to all. I'm a former contributor for the baseball statistics and analysis websites Beyond the Box Score and Rotographs. I've been podcasting about the Giants since 2015. I've been hosting this show for over 5 years, and I'm a lifelong Giants fan. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. Check us out there if you have not already. Please hit that subscribe button wherever it is that you're following the show. Game off. We got to talk about Monopoly Go. This fast-paced game lets you team up with friends for tournaments to unlock awesome prizes like unique stickers for trading, cool playing pieces, and hilarious emojis for taunting your friends. So download Monopoly Go now free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. And where we get started today is by, talking about the Giants salvaging a win in this series in Boston, which I just thought was huge given where they're at, kind of where they've been, how they've been playing, and what a loss would have meant in terms of their record. They would have been 14-18. It's not insurmountable, but they're kind of flirting with that 500 mark, and if you start to slip significantly below it, it becomes a pretty big uphill climb. And so to stick around it, to just kind of hover around 500, lets you eventually go on a tear and kind of pull away a little bit. And so that's the hope. It hasn't happened yet, except it's super early in the season. We're 32 games in. The Giants are 15-17. I just thought, you don't want to be getting swept, right? You're going to lose some road series for sure. The Red Sox played really well, pitched really well, but the Giants pitched better today. And, it's not like the Red Sox pitched poorly. Giants only got 3 runs, so the offensive struggles continued, but that's why I say pitching and defense is what won this game for the Giants. And we'll get into Kyle Harrison and his kind of evolution into a reliable arm in this rotation, just like Keaton Winn has done, just like Jordan Hicks has done. And so I remain bullish on this starting rotation, very much so. And also, though, the bullpen today, Kyle Harrison threw a lot of pitches in 5 innings, and there was some really good defense behind him as well. But so just the pitching and the defense is really what stood out to me in this game. And it was tied late, and the Giants put together a little timely hit type rally in the top of the 7th to scratch across 2 runs. And a big sac fly as well to be that second run. But the bullpen put up zeros. Harrison only allowed 1 run. It was a wall scraper, green monster run. It wasn't even a homer. It was just a wall scraper fly ball that, the Red Sox players are able to read those really well because they play here all the time. And that's the only run that the Giants allowed. Ryan Walker pitched a scoreless inning. What else is new? That guy's super reliable. Erik Miller continues to be exceptionally impressive. And the ERA isn't going to wow you at 4.80, but if we look at the peripheral numbers, I promise you they're going to wow you. I haven't even pulled them up, and I just know. So, my goodness, his expected ERA coming into the game was 2.67. Fielding independent pitching was 3.21. And after today's game, that fielding independent pitching down to 3.07. And essentially the concept is that you would expect, especially with the expected ERA, that actual ERA is just going to get magnetically pulled down closer to those other numbers, which are essentially in the low 3s to mid 2s. And so, I see it. We're seeing 100-mile-an-hour fastballs from the left side to go along with a breaking ball and a changeup. And when he's in the strike zone, the dude is just really, really tough to hit. And so welcome to the big leagues. Erik Miller. This guy, to me, looks like he's going to be a force in this league for a long time, as long as he can throw strikes and as long as he stays healthy. So he pitched a big inning, like struck out Rafael Devers, I think it was, to end the inning. He just, and his attitude too, he's got this kind of tough mentality on the mound, kind of competitive mentality on the mound, and I like to see it. And then Tyler Rogers, what a difference, going from high velocity from the left side to 82 mile an hour fastballs from the right side. Tyler Rogers with a clean, scoreless inning, and Camilo Doval with a nice, clean, stress-free save in the ninth. And so all in all, the Giants struck out 11 Red Sox in this game. They gave up only 4 hits. They gave up only 1 run. They walked 5. All 5 walks were issued by Kyle Harrison. So the bullpen, 4 innings, everybody struck out 1 batter, and they didn't issue a walk, like I said, and no runs, and 1 hit. So 4 innings, 1 hit, no walks, and 4 strikeouts. So exceptional job by the pen. And that's huge because what's funny is it does seem like the Giants offense has kind of been the problem for this team. But when you look into the numbers, like their offense has actually been like mediocre, like middle of the pack, whereas the ERA for the team has been worse than that. It's been towards the bottom half of the league and often in the bottom 10. And so run prevention has just been kind of an issue. And so games like today, if you can win 3-1, that works. That works. But the offense does still need to get it going. But it is worth pointing out, and we will talk about it later. I tweeted this out and it somehow went like not viral, but it caught a lot of traction just about how the league average production offensively is significantly worse than one might expect, because I don't know. I just think that it's going to surprise people to hear what league average is right now in 2024. And we have to know what league average is if we're going to talk about hitters. If you want to say this guy stinks because these are his numbers, well, what if those numbers are actually above league average? Does he stink, or is he actually above average, right? Like that matters a lot. The league average hitter just happens to be putting up numbers that don't look pretty, especially when you compare to 30 years ago or something. And so that's kind of part of what's going on. The Giants offense is quote unquote struggling, but offense as a whole has struggled in the sport. And maybe the Giants pitching has made it look like it's not struggling as much as it is league wide. And that's why the offense seems to stand out more. I don't know if that's making sense, but we'll get into that. And specifically the performance of Kyle Harrison and how this 22-year-old has suddenly become a reliable force, I dare to say, in this Giants rotation. So more about all of that in just a minute, and before we get into it. Today's episode is brought to you in part by FanDuel. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. And it doesn't have to be the NBA or NHL if you're into baseball. Just a simple $5 bet. I mean, you can pick the biggest underdog to lose, right? And if you win, FanDuel will give you $150 in bonus bets, no questions asked. So again, visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Today's episode is also brought to you in part by Monopoly Go. All right, game off. We got to pause and talk about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying. Flag on the play. You already talked about that, but there's so much more good stuff in this game. Monopoly Go lets you team up with friends for timed tournaments where you work together to build each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. And there's so much to get. Unique stickers you can trade with friends to complete albums for big prizes. Cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with. Hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. One of my favorite things to do. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or a robot pachinko machine. And there's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and go download it now free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. All right, as promised, we are going to get into the specifics of Kyle Harrison. I do want to discuss the league average kind of offensive production just to give some context, because there's been a lot of talk about the Giants offense. I get it. Certain guys definitely not producing, and it's been frustrating to watch, but it's also worth pointing out, like, what is league average? And it's a lot like what the Giants have done. Giants have been about a league average offensive team, which is not great, but they've not been horrible, and I think some people think they've been horrible. Anyway, thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers, tomorrow I want to do a mailbag episode. It might be coming out a little bit late. I am traveling again. I'm in Boston currently, so it's gonna come out later in the day. Giants are playing. Stand by on that. Just I'll give you updates on Twitter. Follow me there if you don't already, and I'll let you know what the timing is going to be like. By the way, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV Channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows kept covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV Channels app. So, getting into Kyle Harrison, I just think that it's super worth pointing out. This kid is 22 years old, and he has the poise and maturity of someone significantly older than that. And he just goes out there and pitches 5 innings, gets into trouble, gets out of trouble in this game. And he had his strikeout stuff today. He struck out 7 in 5 innings. He did face 22 hitters, so that's about close to a 33% strikeout rate. Even with the 5 walks, his walk rate on the season is good. I mean, he's just been able to command the zone. And what's so interesting to me is that he, the peripheral numbers, as we discussed after his last start, suggested an ERA more in the kind of high-ish 3s than where it was at 4.09 entering the game. And then he leaves this game with an ERA in the high-ish 3s. So that's just to me like validating of those peripheral numbers. He had a fielding independent pitching coming into the game of 3.86, and after this game, and an actual ERA of 4.09, which is like 25 points higher or so. So 3.86 was the fielding independent pitching coming into the game, and 3.79 is the ERA after the game, and 3.87 is the fielding independent pitching. So the fielding independent pitching barely budged. But the ERA, like I said, magnetically almost got pulled down to where that fielding independent pitching was, indicating that he should be, in a sense. And so it's just kind of like the beauty of numbers for me, and kind of how I analyze the game when I'm looking. I'm obviously also watching the game, and what I see from Harrison is just a guy who, first of all, I mean, the strike throwing ability has come along, and it wasn't necessarily there in this game, but a lot of times he is in fact hitting his spots, and when he's able to kind of fill up the zone with his pitches, he is tough, and he throws his fastball a lot, almost 2/3 of the time, throws his changeup. He's basically doubled his changeup usage from last year to this year. Now about 22% of the time is he throwing the changeup, and it's effective, and he throws that slurve less. He was throwing it last year 26.5% of the time, and this year down to 11%. So he's really up to the changeup usage and downed the breaking ball usage, and he does throw a cutter like 1.5% of the time, but it's primarily fastball. And then, a third of the time you're either going to see a changeup or a breaking ball. And so I don't know. I mean, he's 22 years old, and the sense I get when he goes out there is that he's going to give the Giants a good chance to win. And so when you have Logan Webb locked up for 5 years and is homegrown, 5 years counting this year, you have Kyle Harrison who's locked up for 6 years as a rookie. Does he technically qualify as a rookie still? I believe so. I mean, he's not eligible for free agency until after the 2029 season. You've got Keaton Winn in the same boat, and then you've got Jordan Hicks on this 4-year deal. You've got Blake Snell coming back. You've got Robbie Ray on, Alex Cobb. I'm kind of gushing about the rotation and their potential. It hasn't quite all come together yet and led to just strings and strings of wins. But at the same time, guys like Harrison and Hicks and Keaton Winn, in addition to Logan Webb, it's hard to complain about much of anything with those guys. And then the bullpen has at times been a problem, especially if the Giants are behind. I feel like some of those kind of lower leverage guys, and we discussed yesterday and Dalton Jeffries and all that, and I feel like Mason Black, who had another really good start, I believe, yesterday in AAA, probably should be up instead of Dalton Jeffries, even though he would require a 40-man move. When Blake Snell comes back, and then you've got Cobb, you've got Ray, this starting rotation could really carry the Giants on a roll at some point if they can just get maybe some more offensive consistency and stay healthy as a pitching staff and kind of get their relievers to establish themselves in specific roles, which I feel like has happened. You've basically the guys who pitched today. I mean, today was a low-scoring, high-leverage kind of game, and it was Ryan Walker, Erik Miller, Tyler Rogers, Camilo Doval. That group of four right there, that's the main group. And then you've got Luke Jackson. He's pretty good for being not even one of those guys. And Taylor Rogers, it's been a little bit of a disappointing Giants tenure for Taylor Rogers, but Tyler Rogers continues to do his thing. And I just think, and then as soon as certain guys come back, some of these guys are going to move to the bullpen. Does Keaton Winn move to the bullpen at some point, right? Potentially the Giants have starters to trade. If guys get healthy around or before the trading deadline, you could see, not a young pitcher probably, maybe if you're making a massive trade, if you're giving up Keaton Winn. Anyway, that's a story for another day. But I just, as much as the Giants' record is underwhelming, I like what I see in a lot of ways. I really do. It does feel like the offense just needs to be a little bit better and more consistent. And when I say a little bit better, I do kind of mean a lot better. But also, like I promised, I want to point out what is the league average, right? And so this tweet, for whatever reason, caught a lot of attention. It has been viewed 30,000 times and retweeted 33 times. I did not expect that. I just wanted to say, because I was talking about Jung Lee, who we'll discuss next, and how his expected numbers are so much better than his actual numbers. And we saw it again. The first pitch of the game, he just blasts the ball to center field, hit it so hard, it would have been a home run in 10 ballparks, including Oracle Park, and it was caught. That's just been largely the season for Jung Lee. And then I mentioned, speaking of, because I said this is what's average, this is what his expected numbers are, this is what his actual numbers are, and this is what average is. And then I said, speaking of average, here's what the average MLB hitter has done this year. And so coming up in just a minute, we will give you those numbers and how do they compare to exactly what the Giants offense has done so far in 2024, not counting today because those stats haven't been updated on Fangraphs. We'll get into it in just a minute. And before we do, Today's episode is brought to you in part by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in like I have. Spring training is way in the rearview mirror. Baseball season is officially underway and in full swing. Don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your Prize Pick entries. Whether it's strikeouts, runs batted in, or first inning runs, take your pick of more or less of them and add them to your Prize Picks entry today. Prize Picks has something for every sports fan, from baseball to basketball to League of Legends and everything in between. You can pick LeBron, Shohei Ohtani, Logan Webb, Connor McDavid, Jude Bellingham, all in the same entry. And it's available to play in the great state of California. So download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB, all lowercase, for a first deposit match up to $100. Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy with Prize Picks. All right, as promised, we are going to get into Jung Hoo Lee, but also the league average player in Major League Baseball and how it compares to the Giants offense as a whole. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers, like I said, traveling tomorrow, not going to Philadelphia, so the timing is going to be a little weird. So I apologize in advance for that, but it is what it is, and I will let you know what's up on Twitter. So follow me there if you don't already, at Ben Kaspick, Kaspick, for updates about tomorrow's episode. So, as I pointed out in this tweet this morning, the league average hitter, guess what their batting average is? Like, what would you guess? I feel like most people, I don't know, what would most people guess? Like 270 or something? 239. Okay, is league average. So I'm always talking about 240 something being league average. Right now it's 239 entering today is the league average batting average. And so we must, must understand the league average if we're going to analyze players. If you're going to complain about Mike Yastrzemski's numbers, you got to know what you're comparing it to. You just have to. Otherwise it's a poor argument if you don't even know what normal is. It matters so much what league average is. And so when you say the Giants have hit so poorly as a team, their batting average as a team is only 239. Isn't that funny? That was their batting average entering today, 239. And what is the league average? 239. Exactly on the dot. The Giants' batting average as a team has been exactly league average. The league average on base percentage entering today, 313. Giants entering today, 305. So a little bit below average in that category. The league average slugging percentage entering today, 383. The Giants at 373. And so overall, by weighted runs created plus, 100 is league average, and it kind of takes all of this into account, and it takes your home or the ballparks in which you play into account as well. And it has the Giants 3% below league average. So 3% below average is barely below average, and I would consider basically calling that average. It's 17th out of 30 teams, so it's like kind of right in the middle. The worst teams are about 26% below average. The Dodgers are the best at 28% above average. Second best is the Brewers at 18% above average. So Giants, that's the thing though, is it's not just hitting when you're talking about position players, you're talking about defense and base running as well. And because the Giants have rated as a good defensive team, not surprisingly, in what we've seen and what we saw today. By the way, Jung Hoo Lee, incredible diving catch after losing a ball in the sun today. Just really phenomenal play coming in on a ball, would have scored a run and instead, saved it and ended the inning. And he slammed his fist or his hand into the ground, like out of, pent up emotion. I don't know, like all the hard hit balls he's hit and the ball he lost in the sun. And he's just like, gosh, dang it. That's right. I caught that ball. So that was like cool to see kind of the fiery emotion out of Jung Lee, and maybe a little bit of frustration with all the hard hit balls that he does have. And the Giants rate as, middle-ish of the pack in terms of their base running so far this year, even though they have not been a stolen base team. They're 27th out of 30 teams in terms of stolen bases. But it's not all about steals. It's about, not making outs on the bases. They have made some. They got picked off a few times, but I guess other teams have done worse. But it's also about like first to third, second to home, first to home, third to home, and sac flies. It's about just base running and value added on the bases. So anyway, I did just want to point out that league average stinks, basically. Like, those are the league average numbers. If you look at a hitter and you see they have a 239 average, and your reaction is that's horrible, you may think that's like unsightly, but just know that is what major league average is in 2024, and that matters a ton. And 313 on base, 383 slugging, like those numbers are ugly to me, but I know that they're league average, and so I don't judge a player when those are their numbers and say they're bad, because they're not bad. They're average, and the average major leaguer is exceptionally good, actually. It's just that pitching is exceptionally good as well, and it's really, really hard to hit. So, speaking of Jung Lee, I just wanted to mention the expected weighted on base average for him entering today, 341. The league average on weighted on base average is 311. And again, his expected numbers 341, so 30 points above that. But his actual weighted on base average was 298 entering today, and then he went, I think, 0 for 4 today. So it's going to be even lower. But I feel like the expected numbers are going to go even higher, because that ball he hit could have been a home run in the first inning on the first pitch. So he's been really unlucky. I've seen it with my eyes. I don't need these numbers to really tell me. They just validate what I've seen. He's been one of the more unlucky hitters in the game so far. A lot of people have pointed out, oh, it's balls on the ground, that's why. Well, no, it's these expected numbers take all of that into account. They take into account the exit velocity and launch angle, and say similar batted balls are a hit and produce this kind of results this percent of the time. And for him, basically, he's not getting those results as often as you would normally see. Based on the launch angle and exit velocity. So it is totally taking into account. If he's hitting a lot of balls on the ground, it's taking that into account. But this, like, he's not. Sometimes he is, but he's often hitting them in the air. We saw a couple in the middle game of this series, and we saw one in today to dead center field that was crushed. So in theory, like, this stuff evens out in the sense that you end up closer to your expected numbers when all is said and done. And so I consider this a positive sign, is what I'm trying to say. Like, we've played, 32 games, and there's 130 to go. So the expected numbers are more of an indicator to me of what you're doing than your actual numbers at this stage, for sure. So lastly, I just want to mention Mike Yastrzemski had another magic moment at Fenway Park, and he hit a home run. Big moment in this game to give the Giants a 1-0 lead, and just to see Mike Yastrzemski, of all people, his grandfather, of course, Carl Yastrzemski, Red Sox absolute legend. He's the grandson, and he goes into Fenway Park, and for the second time in his career, it's only the second time the Giants have been there in Yaz's 5-year now major league career, and now in both of those series he's hit home runs. And so I just thought that's really cool. He made a nice diving catch the other night. He had what was at the time a big 2-out bunt hit that scored a run and tied the game in the middle game of the series. So it was a pretty solid series for Mike Yastrzemski, and it's just really cool. Like, the crowd cheers for him when he comes up to the plate. It's just really cool to see. It's cool for him. It's cool for his family. So I was really happy to see that. Anyway, that is all the time we have for today. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Every day is tomorrow. Like I said, I'm traveling, but I will keep you posted. Look out on Twitter for information about when to expect an episode, as it just is a little complicated with the Giants playing a game in the late afternoon Pacific time. I'm currently on the East Coast. I won't be anymore. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. I'll keep you posted. Once again, my name is Ben Kaspick. Check me out on Twitter at Ben Kaspick, Kaspick. If you like this show, please consider rating it or leaving a review. It helps me out so much, so thank you in advance, and thanks to everyone who's done so already. I can't wait to be with you again at some point tomorrow. Thanks again for listening. You are now Locked on Giants.